Thank you and welcome again. I just wanted to touch on something real quick. This past Wednesday, what you see here is about 1,600 people that climbed 2,071 steps at the University of Arizona in memory and honor and respect for our 9/11 and making sure that people never forget. The whole idea behind this program was to just acknowledge what's going on and to make sure we never forget. And so this effort also provides resources for the 100 Club of Arizona. And then you heard Alan back here introduce himself. Bill Ossemacher and myself, we have taken on an effort to help support this living memorial. And it is going to be built in the Raha Park in Oro Valley. After it's built, and I believe a year after it's built, or 2 years, the city of Oro Valley is taking over the effort. But it is going to be a beautiful park, and it's also going to be used for education outreach so that we continue to never forget. So I just wanted to bring these people up to date on what's going on. Alan can give you some information as you're walking out the door. Also introduce yourselves to these candidates, because the candidates that are here today are people that support our industry. And I'm not going to get too crazy with the politics, but it's important that we understand and stay involved and make sure our family and our friends and people we know and even people we don't know understand how important it is to get qualified people to support our industry, support good business practices so that we can continue to move forward here and all throughout the state and eventually. So no further ado, my good friend, former senator and now state representative Gail Griffin.
Thank you. What a pleasure and honor to be here with you today. When we started this off years ago, there were only a dozen or so people, so this is wonderful. We had over 1,300 bills that were submitted this past session. 323 made it through. Back on the back table, the food table, there's a yellow sheet that tells you where we get the money and how we spend it, so I won't go into detail. Biggest issue is everybody wants money. We balance the budget. We have $1 billion in a rainy day fund. We're still in debt, but we were able to reduce the debt that the state had during the downturn. So just real quick, some of the bills that we got through, I did sponsor one for the Mining Association, and the governor did sign it. It was 2453. It was land use plans that identifies the aggregates. The Arizona Geological Survey has volunteered to provide that information to the cities and counties so that you won't hear. I didn't know they were here when we decided to move in. Some of the other bills were resolutions to a federal government, and that's where I think most of our issues are, is with the federal government. So just briefly, there are resolutions that made it through. Most of these that pertain to natural resources, surprisingly enough, passed on partisan lines. We have 31 R's and 29 D's in the House, and so most of these passed just by the 31 votes. And so it was really a challenge because we lost 4 seats in the House, and so we couldn't afford to have one person sick or we could not conduct business. So 2020 is really important. But some of the resolutions that we passed, 2019, Resolution 2019, was in support of all the things that Arizona has done in the past for water management policies. We are so far ahead of California and other states in managing water. I think I have probably 3 or 4, maybe 5 meetings a month on water. And those that believe the way we do, that support our natural resources, have different ideas about water than we do. And so it's important that we show up, and they sometimes don't notify me. And I'm sure it's just an oversight, but when I show up, they say, oh, she's here. Anyway, Resolution 2018 was in support of property rights and the importance of property rights. Memorial 2007 urged Congress not to declare any more wilderness. Memorial 2005 was in opposition to any additional national monument designations. Memorial 2004, if there were any overlays, which we have a lot of overlays on any state or federal overlays on land, we don't want them to include any water rights. We need to keep our water here in the state and not have others wanting to grab it. He who controls the water, the land use, control it all. And energy now is in those three. Water, energy, and land use will control it all. And you've all seen the red and white maps. I have some in the car, so if you haven't seen one, I'd be happy to bring them in. But we only have 13% of land in private hands. So it's important that we continue and strive towards the rejection of property rights. Also a memorial, these memorials go to our federal congressmen, and we ask them to open up bills at the federal level that we want. There's things that we can do, and we need to get rid of the salt cedars along the waterways. If we properly manage our lands, we can have, and we do have, clean air and a healthy environment. And we all operate a little differently today than we did 50 years ago. So best management practices are real important. Becky and I are here today. There's cards on the back table as well. And if you have any questions, this is the time of year. If you have issues, it's time to open up bill files for next session. Session starts the second Monday in January. And we will be fighting for your rights, and thank you for what you do, jobs in the state of Arizona, and keeping our kids here locally. Thank you very much.
Anybody have any questions before she?
I'll have the cards in the back as well.
She said like 13% of the land is in our hands. Could you explain that a little bit?
Yes, in Arizona, if your land isn't state trust land, Bureau of Land Management, we used to say, well, BLM property, we used to say that it's lousy management, Bureau of Land Management, Forest Service, Indian Reservation, and military reservation. If it doesn't qualify in any one of those 5 categories, it's thrown into the private property category. And we only have 13%. The State Farm Bureau in 1998 did a study. Nobody argues with that. But in that 13%, we have conservation easements. We have other designations, churches and camps and other things that are tax exempt, that we can't use that property. So we only have, and so when you compare funding, for instance, education, 54 cents of every dollar of our general fund goes into education. We don't have the money that Texas does, or other states east. If you were to compare the percentage of money Arizona sticks into education, we rank number 13th in the nation, percentage-wise. You make 100,000, I make 50,000, you put 50% of your money in it. That's all of my money. I can't match you. And so we need to be attentive to other designations of lands and overlays that restrict the use of property. Thank you.
Any other questions?
What is the federal percentage?
Too much. No, federal.
It's over 50%. I have that. I'll bring it next month.
Thank you.
You bet.
All right, and before I forget, I would be remiss. First of all, I want to say thank you to Granite Construction for being our host. They provide the beverages, they provide the room for us, and if we had to rent this out every month, we'd be charging more for lunch. So thank you, Granite. Appreciate you. Tell all the folks here how much we appreciate what's going on. Our next speaker, all right, Mark Simmons. How are you, Mark?
How's everybody doing? Thanks for having me here. So I became the plant manager at the Cal Portland Relito cement plant on December 7th. Some of you may have or may have not known Dave Biddle before me. Was there for 45 years, 23 of them as the plant manager. So I'm not going to beat that, but I hope to at least get half of that. Anyhow, we are a mine. Not many people realize that. We mine limestone. We have a quarry out there at Twin Peaks. Some of you may not know this. One of the peaks is gone. In fact, it's a big hole in the ground. There is still one peak there. We've been mining at Twin Peaks since 1948. There is a limestone formation there. All cement plants are somewhere near a limestone mine. Hopefully, if you're lucky and you find a limestone source, and it has some silica in it, and maybe a little bit of aluminum in it somewhere, and some iron in it, now you're in business, because those are the 4 things we need. Obviously, we bring in quite a bit of iron from New Mexico, magnetite source, and we have enough silica in our quarry, on our low, what we call our low-grade limestone, and our dolomitic limestone. And then we obviously bring in alumina sources, because we have none in our quarry. And so our alumina sources come from as far away as Guyana, Australia, on boats and trains to Arizona, and then we're also bringing in bauxite source from Arkansas. Mercury is a little bit of a problem with that, but we're learning how to deal with the mercury there. So what I wanted to share with you guys today is how our dollars at least get spent in the cement industry. Not many people think of us as a mining industry, but as I said, we are. We do about 1.6 million tons a year out of the quarry to make about 1 million tons of clinker a year. And the clinker to cement ratio is about 0.9. So we can sell about 1.2 million tons a year of cement, type 2 Portland, and what we call our extra, out of the Relito plant. We're bringing in more cement right now by rail from one of our other plants in California and selling out of Casa Grande. So the 1.6 tons to make 1 million, why? CO2. Calcium carbonate in the limestone, which is about 85% of what we grind and then burn, burns off as CO2. And so we have lots and lots of battles, like most of you folks have in the mining industry, on the environmental front. Most of our battles are pertaining to CO2, which is a part of climate change, as they say, and it is a greenhouse gas, and obviously many other emissions wrapped up into that as well within a cement plant. So, what I wanted to share with you is our capital projects we're doing this year. Some of you may be participating in some of these projects from an engineering standpoint or equipment supply. A lot of the equipment is specialty equipment as well. So I wanted to start out by saying, what is that? And don't say cement truck. That's a concrete ready mix truck. Go ahead. That's a cement truck. So if you've seen these trucks up and down the highways, we call these bulk cement trucks, and that's what's hauling our product. Of course, our company is involved in other industries. I'm on the cement side, and we have a lot of folks on the materials and ready mix side as well. Go ahead with the next slide. So I'll go back. Well, yeah, we'll stay here. So our capital improvement this year is going to be around 16 million bucks. We usually don't get that kind of money because we're generating around 8 or 9 a year. However, this year we needed to do quite a large-scale project, and this is our preheat tower. Some of you have maybe seen it driving down I-10. This is part of our pyroprocessing system, our kiln system, which burns the kiln feed to make clinker to make cement. And as luck would have it, I arrived at about the same time the 2 top cyclones were determined to be pretty much completely destroyed over their 48-year life. And then all the ductwork up on top has to be replaced too. But to get to that, there's a concrete floor on the top of this concrete tower. And that has to be demolished, which is starting on Monday. So that's about 220 feet off the ground. Imagine how to demolish a 40-foot by 80-foot concrete floor, way off the ground. So obviously a special contractor was hired for that. So this job's running about 7 million bucks. Okay, next slide. This is a big fan wheel. That's about an 8-foot diameter fan. It's called an induced draft fan. And this is a fan that actually pulls gases from the clinker cooler through the kiln, up the preheat tower, down the preheat tower, and out. So this fan is responsible for all of the draft through the pyroprocessing system at about 240,000 actual cubic feet per minute through the preheat tower. So this fan is in a dirty environment. It's a dirty high-heat fan. So it wears out pretty quick. We replace it every 10 to 15 years, but the last one we put in had some resonance frequency and destroyed itself, which was 2 years ago, so we're doing another fan. This is another fan that's after our bag house. We do have massive dust collection systems in place on the property, and this fan is responsible for pulling clean air through the bag house to dedust it, and we also inject lime into the gas stream to reduce HCl formation. So this fan has a big responsibility in our plant. It's taking the exit gases from the preheat tower, pulling them through a dust collector, and then out the stack, our main stack, which is basically clean gas, okay? By the way, for those of you who don't know, the 3 stacks that you see from I-10, the big concrete ones, those have been out of service since the 70s. We get calls all the time, hey, you guys are dusting, I can see the dust, it's coming out those big concrete stacks, and we say, thank you very much, we'll take care of that. This is our coal silo. It's very old as well, a lot of old stuff out there. So you see these bands up and down this coal silo. This is a 1,200-ton coal silo. Those bands are about 18 inches apart, some of them a foot. They're steel cable, wrapped in some type of plastic. I don't know plastics that well, but they're wrapped in some type of plastic. They were tensioned, and then the tensioning devices are embedded in this giant concrete thing going up the side. There's one here, one around the back side. And that cable is there to prevent what's called reverse bending of the concrete silo. It's hard to imagine, but a concrete silo can kind of become oval this way and then oval this way, and over many, many years of that, you get vertical cracking inside the silo, and rather than letting the silo fall down, we decided to fix it, and so $0.275 million for that. Next slide. The top of our silo had some issues as well. You can see some cracking up here on the top. We had those high pressure grouted, and then we had to transfer the load from the existing beams to elsewhere on the side of the wall of the silo. If you think about the sides or the walls, we put in load transfer beams to move the load of the beam pockets that are existing to other places of the concrete that haven't yet had as much destruction to them just from time and gravity. So that was another big project. Our coal silo should get another 50 years of life out of the silo. Go ahead. This is our kiln. That's the workhorse of the plant, or part of our kiln. We are replacing 40 feet of kiln shell this year. So that'll be a section from about somewhere in this neighborhood to around in here. This is a 15-foot diameter steel kiln shell, 1 inch thick, and it's actually getting on a truck next week and taking an 8-day journey from Wisconsin to Arizona and cannot be on a freeway the entire way. Only country roads with no overhead power lines and no overhead overpasses. Sorry, I forgot that word for a minute. Anyhow, that'll be an interesting drive, I think. Next slide. So this is an old coal mill. We presently have our coal tires are on spring tension. We get about 800 PSI grinding pressure out of those. And we're going to replace those springs, which have been there since the 70s, with hydraulics. So we're going to have a new hydraulic pump and skid in the plant. This will give us additional grinding pressure, which for us means a lot because we'll be able to grind our coal much finer. We'll have better heat transfer in the kiln. We'll probably have some energy reduction as a result of that. And we'll be able to do a few more tons per hour, which will help as well for when the coal mill can't keep up with production. So we're looking forward to that project. This is a McGaldy belt conveyor. Well, it's not a belt conveyor, it's a pan feeder. Some of you guys may know it. I'm sure all of you know what pan feeders are. We're replacing this McGaldy with a belt conveyor. And the reason is we'll be able to get a weigh scale on there to 0.5 plus or minus 0.5% accuracy, which will help us with DEQ and regulations. All of our emissions are based on a per ton of clinker basis. And so because of that, quarterly, we have to spend quite a bit of money to recalibrate, do drop testing, blah, 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 blah. This belt should be able to quantify our actual real-time clinker production, help us with inventorying, help us with inventorying our emissions, everything else. So I'm looking forward to that. I just hope it doesn't catch on fire because it was my idea. And the new clinker cooler we put in a couple years ago should keep the material temp down low enough where it doesn't catch on fire. Because they used to catch it on fire and put the McGaldy in. And my first decision was to get rid of the McGaldy. So this is a map of our plant. As many of you know, we have a long overland belt conveyor. This at one time was the longest belt conveyor in North America. It's 3.5 miles. This is our quarry. There's Mono Peak, and you can see the plant in Relito up there. So that quarry road, Hall Road, we call it our belt road actually. We're replacing this belt, which is actually a 7 miles length of belt because it has to go, all the way around. So 3.5 mile long one way, but 7 miles of belting. That belting will be starting to show up next month as well. So. And then compressors, for many of you guys know we use a lot of compressed air in the mining industry. This was a new high capacity, high efficiency screw compressor. And that's already installed and running. So it was a good upgrade to the plant. Our main finish mill, what we call D3 mill, this is a cement grinding ball mill. Clinker and gypsum primarily go into that, along with a little bit of limestone. We're replacing the diaphragm section this year. And going with, we presently don't have this style with the center, this is here to let the cement through but keep the balls in. And we have a solid center diaphragm right now, so we're going with a graded diaphragm, more airflow, more production, more better. And then this is environmental only. We did get caught up, along with the other cement plant in northern Arizona, into a regional haze EPA agreement, which ADEQ fought on our behalf to tell the EPA it would make no difference for us to put this in. EPA didn't care, we put it in, and I say it's an increase in operational costs because it's going to be about $1 a ton on our bottom line. But it is for NOx emission reductions. Even though we got caught up in the regional haze issue, it's projected not to improve air quality in the Phoenix metro or Tucson area, but here we are. A bucket elevator getting replaced. I think people know what those are. Go ahead and keep going. And that's about it. So those are most of the pictures of our big projects this year. And I know 3M is here. We do some business, quite a bit of business with 3M. And if any of you others out there that we're currently doing business with I missed, I'm sorry. So thank you for your time.
Questions? Yeah. Yes, sir.
They do a 7 miles of worn out belting, make a water slide out of it?
Actually, it'll probably get woven So we have a lot of belting on the ground right now. A lot of people are now buying old belting for various reasons. And we'll have people actually spool it up and we take it to an auction. Some of it may get shredded up, like tires get shredded up for fuel sources now. Some of it can get shredded up for fuel sources. We are permitted to burn tires, and I'm trying to find a way in the government to be able to burn our own fuel belting. There are companies out there with machines that can chop all that stuff up. Yes, sir.
Why doesn't the kiln section come on rail? I'm sure there's a good reason. Instead of truck.
I don't know. I'm sorry to say, I do not know. But it is on a truck. It's a 40-foot piece. That's a great question. I'll have to ask our engineers. Thank you, but I don't know. Other than, well, is anyone in here from the UP?
Bernie Sanders must have told him to come through.
Are you with the UP? The UP is slightly painful for us to deal with. They're pretty costly. So, if we could, we would avoid them altogether. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Who's producing your shell out of Wisconsin? What company?
I forget the name of the company. We wanted to go through Chef Steel in Phoenix. They made us a section a decade ago. We called them, they said, we don't make kiln shell, we never have. And we said, what? We just bought kiln, AC Kiln Services.
Is it Kilntech or Mauritius?
It's neither. It's a steel shop. It's a steel fabricator shop that rolls the shell. AC Equipment Services is doing the installation. Did they do the fabrication of it? I don't think so.
Yeah,
AC
they do.
is elusive, so we've now anticipated.
AC was bought by
AC
TKIS.
now, yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Oh, thanks. Okay.
How are you guys and ladies? Kevin Gillette, Director of Business Development for the UA Tech Parks, and I've learned two things in life about PowerPoints. Number one, don't do one before lunch. And even better, don't do one after a pasta lunch. So you're just getting a few words from me here real quick. But it was a good presentation on the mill. So. Just want to give you guys a little update. The University of Arizona with some of our partner organizations, UA Tech Parks being one of them, have applied for an EDA grant. And the purpose of the grants are to find regional innovations that are happening in different sectors of the local economy, and how do we take those innovations, commercialize them, turning into viable companies to support whatever's happening here. And recently in our application, I'm dropping everything, sorry, we chose mining technology as what we were going to go after for this grant, to figure out where are those innovations happening, where can we find those good ideas, whether it's inside an existing company or an entrepreneur or someone within the community that has a great idea on how to bring technology for efficiencies, for whatever, environmental issues, productivity. How do we do that? How do we find the minerals quicker and the deposits, laser point almost. So I want to give you an update on that we plan on submitting that grant will be in the spring of this year. Our role is at Tech Parks is we plan on hosting kind of a corporate center of innovation within the UA Tech Parks, where mining companies or technology companies can come together utilizing the brain power of U of A with our wonderful professors and people that are scary smart over there. But just kind of wanted to let you know that that's kind of what's going on. So hopefully there will be a point where we'll be reaching out to you all proactively to find out where opportunities you see in your industry and how can we come together with the resources of the university and find innovative solutions to challenges that you're having every day. So that was just kind of the quick, I don't know any good jokes like yours. But you sure? And yeah, you may not recognize I'm wearing regular pants today. I'm wearing the clown pants that we had. Oh yes, you
His entire team was red, white, and blue colors.
Oh yes. Yes, the university.
With the diamond pattern.
Yes.
I mean,
Argon.
that's, I never saw it. I never saw it the rest of that.
Yes. I did not pick those out. But I just represent that. But anyway, I'll be around here if you have any other questions specifically, or if you have one now, I can try to avoid it. But go ahead.
So I was gonna say, a lot of times people put things together and they focus on the mining side, not big, all around. Is any of it gonna focus on things like mineral processing and that side, or is it really focused?
The short answer is yes. That's kind of the whole intent, is to kind of pull back and find out, you know, obviously most everybody in the room probably knows that the University of Arizona is known worldwide for optics. Well, optics covers every industry. So how are there applications that are happening, you know, in another industry that could be applicable there? So that's kind of the whole concept of saying, okay, how do we take, you know, this global idea of innovation and apply it to specific industries where people might not have thought that that's applicable? So to answer your question, yes, that's what we envision, is a place where mining companies can come with other people in the community, that ecosystem, and say, I've got a challenge. It might be a guy who runs I don't know, is an artist, can figure something out. I mean, it sounds crazy, but you know, getting those innovative people in the room together, that's kind of the vision that we have for that. Yes, ma'am.
Is there any, are you connecting at all or working with the Lowell Institute of Mineral Resources?
Yes.
Okay,
That's
seems like
our.
an obvious, you know, would be a miss not to be working together. So.
Oh, no. So,
Yeah.
again, forgive me, I'm 7 months in on this job, and there's so many colleges within the university, and they're all named after people that I don't know. So I have to try to learn a bunch of names and to do that. But yeah, Lowell is obviously a very key partner, and that's where we are affiliated with U of A, and then some of our other counterparts are more community-based, but that's what we bring to the table, is the access to the Lowell folks.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Rod, you're up.
So I unfortunately have lots of slides. Sorry, didn't think of the pasta. Got to remember that. So I'm Rod Lane. I'm with the Arizona Department of Transportation, and I am the district engineer for the South Central District. So the way the district is set up, there's 3 in the bottom, 3 in the north, and 1 in the center. So we're just kind of the center of the bottom of the state down there. We go all the way, our district goes all the way up to about Casablanca, TI, all the way to the Mexican border, all the way over just east of Benson on I-10, out past Ajo. We got I-8, all the way up to the county line. So we've got a pretty big area, 3 interstates, lots of rural components, international borders, 5 NPOs, a bunch of Indian nations that we have to work with. Move on to the next one. So we're going to talk about, you know, kind of what we do, what we're doing now, and where we're going kind of over the next several years. So we'll talk about kind of current construction, start off in that area. So we're just finishing up the Ina Road project. Hopefully everybody's enjoying that. We've got a little minor, we'll see if you clap in about 5 minutes. We're just finishing up that one. It went really, really well. $124 million project. We're just wrapping up some fiber optic kind of stuff on it at this point, moving through. So that one's good. The next one, that's the bridge over the Santa Cruz River, kind of east of the project, and the other one's an area over the whole thing. So the next one we're working on is Ajo Phase 2, going right over at Ajo I-19. This is the second phase of this project, so it's a little more than 50% on this phase, but this is the last phase, so we're really about 75% through with the entire project, if you kind of look at the grand scheme of things. So the shot on the left there is the new bridge. That would be the eastbound bridge over the Santa Cruz River. And the other shots, the kind of the foundations of the new PED bridge, those walls, the noise walls for I-19 that you can see when you drive down I-19, on the other side of the wall is going to be the PED bridge that took down the old one, putting a brand new one that goes over it. So that's part of the new one. F&F's doing a really nice job on that. $32 million project. We expect to have that one done probably April-ish of this year, excuse me, next year. The next big one that's coming up, which I'm sure you've all seen starting, is the Ruth Rock traffic interchange. We've got all the demolition done on that. We've got all the archaeology done on that. currently advertised. Right now, the bids are going to open on the 11th at this point. It's going to be a new diamond interchange, which is the same layout as Ina. It's a little bit different than Ina in that we're not going over the Santa Cruz River. And if you've driven over Ina and you get off at Ina and then you head east, you got that intersection there, not far where the Circle K is. Well, we've got kind of the same intersection quandary on Ruthroff, but it's a lot closer to the railroad, so we're going to actually stay on that. So there's not enough grade to get us down. So we're going to put another bridge and then come down out even further, and that's why we have that kind of loop road going behind on the side there. We're going to be using what's known as an A+B bidding method on this, so the contractors will be bidding time and we'll be incentivizing time. So hopefully we'll get some pretty innovative methods to get this project done pretty quickly. It's about a $129 million job. We can move on. Next one that's in the process right now is SR 189. That's down in the Nogales area from the international border to Grand Avenue and I-19. That's going to be a design-build project. So ADOT has hired a general engineering consultant, which is AECOM. We're in the process right now of selecting teams, the design-build teams, and we're kind of expecting dirt to start moving February-ish, we're hoping on that one. So that's a big one. It's about a $95 million project. It's going to include new flyovers for bringing 189 to I-19. It's going to include a bridge at, I can never remember the street. It's Frank Reed Road, and a roundabout down at Target Range Road. So that's going to be a very, very good project as well. Next one. So kind of a list of the current projects we've got. We've already talked about Ina Road, the top two. Wilmot signals, hopefully everybody's patient with us as we install these signals at Wilmot, Colvin, Rita. They're coming along. I know we've had some traffic issues down there. The bridge at El Toro is just getting started. We've got another project way out on SR 86. So last of 3 projects we've had out there over the past probably 6 years. Fresnel to 123. So that one's just getting kicked off as well. Some paving projects on I-8 and another kind of deck rehab bridge job on I-10 at Vale Road, traffic interchange underpass. And if we can move on. Next we'll talk about the 5-year program. ADOT programs all of its work in 5-year chunks. Every year they revisit this program and move forward 1 year. So we can look at kind of what's coming up in the next 5 years. So if we look at, I kind of broke this out into the different highway systems that are within the district. So we can move on to the next one. So we've got on Interstate 10, obviously Ruthroff is there. We got, let's see if I can tell you that there's the 3 colors kind of in the center with the E, the P, and the M are for expansion, preservation, and modernization. So that's the type of budgeting and type of work that we segment our funding into. We're either going to do an expansion project, in other words, add lanes, add something, we're going to do a modernization project, update signals, safety improvements, or we're going to do a preservation project. We're ripping off the old pavement, put new pavement back on the exact same place it was before. That's kind of the 3 funding methodologies that we go through. So quite a bit of work coming up down on I-10. The big one is going to be also in this year is the Houghton Road TI. That's going to be a whole new interchange down there as well. We expect to have that one probably, it's going to be advertised this year, probably around January-ish after the first of the year. That was going to be a new interchange that we haven't seen in this part of the state before, called the diverging diamond, where you're going to actually be driving on the opposite side of the road as you go over the interstate. So that one's going to be pretty interesting. Pavement preservation project way up north on I-10. Another one, big project coming out in the next few years is the last project of the design concept report that got us to Ina and Ruthroff. And that's the main line widening of I-10 between Ina and Ruthroff. And that's going to be about a $105 million project. It's going to include a new traffic interchange at Sunset where we're going to swap it over again. We're trying to work with the county on that one to see if we can, they want to extend and do some additional work out east. So we might be heading down that road with them as well. Let's see, San Pedro Bridge. Go back there. Let's keep looking at I-10. You'll see some other projects down there on the road. Like on 21, you'll start to see Keno Parkway TI, Country Club TI. Those, I'll talk about those in a little bit. That's just kind of design money and right-of-way money at this point. Those are kind of the first outcomes of a design concept report that I'm going to talk about in a minute. And the rest of them are kind of preservation projects as we go through, kind of keep our system moving. New deck rehabs at Red Rock and such. If we can move on to the next one, which is Interstate 8 and Interstate 19. Back, the top one up on there is a Ruby Road TI, but if you look at the dollar value, it's just 2.2 million. So it's really just a deck rehab. So we're not going to be doing the whole traffic interchange down there. Another deck rehab on at the Helmet Road TI. Big pavement press project. So we're going to rip up all the old pavement, put new pavement down from Duval Mine Road all the way to Pewine Road. A lot of pavement, a lot of preservation projects, and then we look out at fiscal year 23, we're looking at starting to do that Irvington Road traffic interchange on I-19. So if we move on to the next one, more work we've got coming in Pima County. SR-77 is going to be pretty busy next year, or this coming year. We've got two projects that we're hopefully going to combine together. So they're going to go all the way from I-10 to Kaya Concordia. The first one is kind of a pavement preservation project, and that's kind of from Miracle Mile up to River Road. And the next one is going to be more of a reconstruct with sidewalks and stuff. So the roadway's not going to be expanded, but we're going to put new curbs in and put the drains underneath. So it's going to be quite a larger project. Hopefully we'll do that. Top one 31 is not right. That should be, I think, 11 and 31, not those two numbers. So that's going to be going out this year. That'll be another good one. There's some guardrail safety projects, and then that last one again is an SR-210 at the I-10. We're going to talk more about that in the DCR when we come up later. Up in Pinal County, more preservation projects up there, a little modernization, kind of stuff for almost your scour fits or scour retrofit kind of work. The Gila River Bridge on SR-79 is going to be quite an interesting job. So those of you that are familiar with it, that's the bridge that's just north of Florence. And we're going to be replacing that with an interesting technique where we're going to build it next to it and slide it in place. So we'll see how that works. It's kind of a test to see if we can make it work before we hit I-10 with the Gila River Bridge on I-10. So we'll see how successful we are with that. Let's move on to the next one. Santa Cruz County, some work down there with more kind of scour retrofit kind of stuff, some modernization. And then Cochise County, some bridge replacement and bridge rehabilitation stuff. So let's keep going, and we'll kind of head into this study area. So we've got a major study that's going on. It's been going on for quite some time. The I-10 SR-210 study. So it goes from the I-10, I-19 interchange all the way down to Cold Road. It's kind of the oldest section of I-10 we have out there left. And it also goes up to SR-210. So the plan is to rebuild I-10 all the way through that system and then connect I-10 to SR-210. So that funding that you saw up in the original part of the program, we're starting to see the design money and the right-of-way money start to come into the program to start implementing all of these changes and all of these things. So this is a $1.2 billion project. It's probably going to take 10, 15 years to do. DCR is not quite done. We've still got a little bit more to go on it, and it's going to be where we're heading with major investment in Southern Arizona, one of our major investments in Southern Arizona. So we move on to the next one, the Sonoran Corridor, another area of major investment that we're looking at doing in Southern Arizona, and that's to connect basically I-19 to I-10 down to the southern route. We narrowed it down to 3 alternatives at this point. This is just a Tier 1 study, so there still has to be a Tier 2 study after that before we can even start looking at construction phasing on that one. So we're moving right along on that. We got down to 3, so we're good. And the last one we're talking about is the I-11 corridor. We've got that down to a recommended alternative at this point. It primarily encompasses what used to be in the previous one was a green and purple alternatives, and it meets the purpose needs. The best result for meeting the purpose needs. The comment period did end back in July, so we still haven't gotten the final DCR out yet, or EA out yet, and that's what we're moving towards next. And I think the next slide gives us kind of the timeline where we are. So yeah, we're still moving forward with the EIS on it, and expect to have that one out somewhere next year. So I believe that is it for me. I have some pamphlets. We ran out in the last 2 rows, I'm sorry. So we do have this online. However, you can download it. It's if you look on our website, kind of mine your way around, you'll find a link to the districts. And in the southwest or south central district, you'll see a light up there. There's just something we update quarterly, has all our contact information in it. So if you have any questions or anything, does anybody have any questions? I'd love to get approached.
I can imagine it would be Canal County with all the white light down.
Yes, there is. We are just kicking off a DCR to go do that. That's a pretty heavy lift, as I'm sure many of you know. But we are moving forward with it. I hope to have the DCR. I'm not quite sure what the schedule is for it. I believe it might be advertised right now. Consultants come on and finish it. So we are, that's a very, trying to very aggressive on the
Tuesday.
Okay.
All right. Wilmot, thank you.
Oh,
Because,
positive report, positive comment.
well, because you're doing, you're permissive left turns.
Thank you.
Thank you, that's all.
And from a signal guy, too.
That's no mistake. When is Grant and the freeway going to get scheduled?
So, first of all, we redid all the stuff on the Grant Road interchange in terms of ADOT when we did the I-10 project. There's a project to redo the railroad section of Grant Road. That's a city project. So it's not actually an ADOT work. All of our work was done when we did the I-10 widening job about 8 years ago. We did all the ramps, everything downtown, was all redone. So we're in good shape down there in terms of what the areas within ADOT's right of way.
Okay, so underneath is not, is that city or that's ADOT?
Underneath is ADOT. But if they want to widen it, when ADOT went through and did the I-10 widening, the capacity is there. They can widen it. If you look on each side, there's quite a bit of space between where the existing curb is now to where the abutment is.
Right.
So they can go through and widen that if they'd like to. Not only that, the piers in the center, if you look at the artwork on the piers in that, the artwork kind of stops. It doesn't really stop. It goes another 5 feet down so that when they get exposed, it's going to continue on down there.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's all going to happen at the railroads, but they built that capacity into their system when we did 10 years ago.
Just, as someone who uses the roads many thousand miles a year, the first thing to the line, I tend to 3 lanes. I get on at Sacramento and it's just like beautiful.
Yeah.
I remember the 2 lanes. Anyway, so when you guys are completing a section of freeway, widen that. When it's done, you still don't let us use that new lane for like 4 weeks. You have the cones up, what's the purpose of that?
Well, it depends. We might not be completely done. There might be more pavement to go out there. There might be more striping to go out there. The contractor might still need access to that, whether it be shoulder work, whether it be something on the edge. It really depends on the project and what's going out there. There is a reason, I can tell you that. Without saying exactly which project you're speaking of, I wouldn't know the reason. But we work very hard not to close a lane unless it needs to be closed.
And then right there by the Florence interchange, where we just completed all that, there's all these electronic speed limit signs every 500 feet. What?
So those are going to be variable speeds. So that area up there is very prone to dust. And we've had many, many very significant accidents up there relative to dust and weather. There's a whole dust detection system that's installed as part of the SR87 I-10 interchange project. One of the components of that is regulatory reduction in speed. So these signs will light up, and that will be the speed limit. It won't be the 75, it'll be whatever those set.
That makes sense. I've always called the guys who keep the black hole of accidents. because it just seems to be so.
Yeah. Anybody else have any questions? All right, oh, we got one more in.
Yeah, what's the timeline on the roof on the
Oh, the timeline? So, no. So I can't nail it that much because it is an A plus B. So it all depends on what the contractor submits as his schedule. I'm going to say 2 years. I'm going to say less than 2 years. That's about the best I'm going to say. And I will say this. I live out on the west side of Route 1. So I'm going to be doing it every day right there with you. All right. Anybody else? Nobody else? Thank you.
And you have lunch. I'm going to pass the bucket from the back to the front. I'll shoot the lunch
I don't have that. I'm just talking. Easy peasy. All right. So last, well, almost last, but I don't have any slides either, so you won't fall asleep watching PowerPoint. Heston Clean, it's actually with an I, or with an E, not an I. That's okay. I'll forgive you. I thought I was getting out of it. I was on the agenda when the email went out, and then I got here and I wasn't. Pretty excited. I'm with Resolution Copper up in Superior, and just wanted to kind of give a quick update where we're at with the project, both on the construction side and the permitting side. So on the construction side, the good news is we just started about 2 weeks ago, commenced sinking in the number 9 shaft. So remember, we sunk the 10 shaft and finished it a few years ago down to 7,000 feet. We spent the last couple of years of rehab work in the old number 9 to get it ready to go, and now we're sinking it to meet up with the 10 at 7,000 as well. So once that's done, we'll connect the two, and that'll give us the ability to go out and start doing underground characterization. About 15,000 feet of tunnels that we're going to develop out underneath the ore body, and then really make sure that the mine is even developable from a geotechnical standpoint, and the ore body is what we think it is. I can look at Angela New back there because she spent a lot of years and lost a lot of brain cells working on that project. So that work's going really well. On the reclamation work going on in Superior, we just awarded the most recent contract for the reclamation of the biggest the biggest historical tailing pond in Superior from the old magma operation. We've spent so far over the last 10 years about $50 million on the reclamation work there. Got about $30 million to go, and we'll finish up that reclamation work next year. For any of you that drive through Superior, it doesn't look anything like it looked 15 years ago. There's no more tailings piles. There's no more. Pretty soon there won't be a slag pile anymore either. You really won't be able to tell there was ever a historic mining operation there. On the permitting side, most of you probably know our draft environmental impact statement came out on August 9th. So we're a month into it now. We've had our first 2 public hearings. They've been pretty uneventful so far, knock on wood. But the important part is what the draft says. I think probably what most people here care most about is it validated and in some cases elevated what we'd always said the socioeconomic impacts of the project were going to be. A little bit over $1 billion a year in economic impact, about 3,700 jobs. So it's a very good project from that standpoint, from the socioeconomic side. It talks about, it validated our mining technology, so the mining method, block cave, has been validated. They chose not to even look at any further alternatives on that. We meet all and exceed all requirements around air quality and water quality on the mine site. They did, one of the biggest topics in the draft, or through the scoping period up to the draft, was the tailings location. We had initially had it in the plan of operations 3 miles west of Superior on forest land.
the Forest Service then went out and found 4 other alternative locations to look at. And they've now shifted completely, and through public input and the involvement of the tribes and everybody else, they've shifted it over to a different location. The preferred alternative is called Skunk Camp. It sits kind of in Dripping Springs, right behind the Ray open pit. So it's in a disturbed area, far away from population. I think Winkleman's the closest real community to the town. It's like 20 miles away, but 45-minute drive, it's a long ways away. There are a few residents about 8 miles downstream, but they're pretty well, they'll never see it, never even know it's there. So that's a really good outcome. And the other good outcome is it takes it off of any public land and puts it onto private land. That skunk campsite is a mixture of private, mostly private, and some state trust land. So once we get up there, we move away from the federal lands. And thank you, Rosemont, for helping us push that idea along. But no, I think, you know, in general, it's been pretty good. There's some mitigations we still need to work on. Some impacts that we maybe didn't see coming or don't necessarily agree with how they've been analyzed. Especially around water impacts in Superior. They're saying there will be a little bit more water loss due to the subsidence than we had anticipated. But we're working with the town. We have a hydrological working group with all 21 participating agencies. And the town of Superior has a seat at that table now to help work out the mitigations on the loss of storm water that would have otherwise come down Queen Creek. But yeah, I think, you know, other than that, the project's moving forward. We're on schedule for final EIS next year, which would then trigger the land exchange within 60 days. So public comment on the draft EIS right now closes out on November 7th. So far, the Forest Service has held steadfast on not issuing an extension, even though all the usual suspects have asked for it. And that would be very helpful and keep us out of any political mess late next year. So I encourage everybody to please get on the draft EIS website and submit comments. Supportive, obviously. But and encourage them, you know, to keep the schedule, keep it moving forward. It's a very thorough EIS, just over 1,400 pages in length, and so it's nice leisurely reading if you need some pure prints on you. And yeah, we'll keep going.
Yay.
Yeah. You might have questions, yes. That was the biggest reason I did do a presentation, so if anybody had questions.
Just one of your comments that you validated your mining method. Do you have any, I know it's not in your billion, but any comments on what happened with OU-12 the proposed paving method that is not going to work like that?
Yeah, I am definitely not a geotechnical person. All I really know about OT is, you know, the rock down there is not performing like they had hoped it would. I think it'll still eventually, it'll work, they'll get there. But like any underground mine, you encounter rock conditions that you don't always anticipate from the drilling you do from surface, you know, in advance. So there's technical difficulties in a ramp-up process that they're going through, but they'll get there, and it'll still open and produce. It's just a matter of time and money. Yeah, a couple $2 billion, that's all. Have been any concerns expressed for subsidence impacts on US 60? No, so the draft confirms the most conservative models that they put forward show that there's no impacts to Apache Leap, no impacts to US 60, no impacts to Devil's Canyon. It stays well away from all those areas. And we're, you know, US 60 is obviously, we don't want to impact that. Apache Leap, we put in place the special management area a few years ago in working with the tribes. So we have to stay far away from Apache Leap, which means we're sterilizing part of the ore body to stay away from it.
You distributed draft
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
And so, and the main points that you want people to do?
Absolutely.
We will get it out, we will get them done.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sporting Clays Tournament, Friday, October 11th. You can go on the Amigos website, miningamigos.com. It's there for you to register. It'll be here in Tucson at Tucson Trap and Ski. First annual, we hope, Sporting Clays. So participate in that, please. Representative Griffin asked me to allow another announcement about the mining museum.
Yes, I have an appointment on Thursday with the U of A to talk about where we're at and when we can expect to have a ribbon cutting for the opening of the mining museum. Mining Mineral Natural Resource Education Museum is now the name. And so we have a oversight committee, and we may need volunteers to fill that committee. So if you're interested in volunteering, the idea, as you know, when the Arizona Museum Society took it over, they closed it. That building was closed for 6 or 7 years. Schools would show up with children and the doors were locked. So we want to open them up, grow young engineers, light the fires under these young kids so that they know all about mining and natural resources. So if you're interested, please keep that in mind and contact me. One other short announcement. What has been the Navigable Spring Commission, if you're not familiar, this was a long process, started way back when. The state land commissioner wanted to deed the riverbeds to the adjoining property owners. The environmental community sued, they won. But in that court case, the court said, state, you identify if the rivers and tributaries in Arizona were navigable at time of statehood, February 14th, 1912. And so the state formed a Navigable Stream Commission. Rusty Bowers and I were on that 22 years ago in the legislature that reviewed all the rivers and streams. We lost commissioners. Some of them were in their 80s, replaced them. Final 5 rivers that were being reviewed that made it through to the courts were the San Pedro, the Santa Cruz, the Gila, the Salt, and the Verde. The deadline for the environmental community or anybody to appeal the decisions after 22 years was this spring. The San Pedro and the Santa Cruz were not appealed. They're done. Santa Cruz, San Pedro were not navigable at time of statehood. The other ones that were appealed were the Verde, the Salt, and the Gila. So we're not quite done with those yet, but I just wanted to give you an update on those. Thank you.
Yeah.
So just quickly, I just want to remind everybody that SME Tucson chapter are in the middle of our fundraising campaign for the U of A, well, beyond U of A, but primarily U of A students that are in mining and related industries. So if you've gotten a call or an email or you're waiting to respond, now's the time to do it and let us know how much you're going to help us out and contribute. There are a couple of people in the room that are on my list, South 32, M3, K&G, so let your people know, I'll be contacting you. And then the other thing I wanted to make sure everybody knew about is the third quarter Women in Mining event is next Friday the 20th. This one is up in Phoenix. We've done the other 2 down here in Tucson. We are the Arizona chapters. We wanted to make sure we also make some of the events accessible up in Phoenix. It's at the Arizona Science Center. The topic is getting your voice heard. So it's a topic that I think really relates to anybody. We all can, I think, feel like we all want to have a stronger voice from time to time, and so we've got some really great speakers. You can go to womeninmining.us and go to the events page and get the registration. And that's what I wanted to make sure, take the opportunity to remind everybody while we're here together. So, thank you.
Tom, did you want to say anything? All right, just real quick, we're still working on a Miracle in Mining campaign, and we still have some t-shirts left, $10 a piece. We've got extra large, double X for you big studs out there, and or great nice shirts that I send back to my girlfriend. She goes, oh, this works fine. Anyway, thank you all. safe travels, and we'll see you soon.